Well guys, we are back for another episode of the Liberal Asshole Show, episode 86, and what are today's topics?
Net neutrality is back, Biden joins UAW strikes as Trump bricks himself, Dianne Feinstein died, Kevin McCarthy removed as speaker, Matt Walsh is against voting, California book bans, and just a thing on my end, because I want to talk about this, the Voice to Parliament referendum.
Alright, cannot wait to get to all these topics, so what do we cover first?
We have net neutrality is back.
Yeah, boy! Remember, guys, net neutrality, that is shit pie, and Trump got rid of almost 6 years ago now. Well, thankfully,
Remember that.
it is back. And good time too, because the internet has been dog shit ever since without it. And this is a huge victory. This is, in terms of like Poland, one of the worst things Trump has done. Like, almost everyone in the country was against it. But he and his shit pie went like, we're gonna go do it anyway because fuck you. Care about getting our money from telecommunication companies and all that. So, yeah, let's watch this video of the awesome news.
And Ajit Pai, this means war. We're not going to lie down and take it. We will fight you, Ajit.
Yep, all the way back in 2017 when Mike covered this.
Yep.
Longtime viewers of the channel know that I have been talking about the importance of net neutrality since 2017. 2017, it's been a very long time. And after 6 years of covering this story fairly regularly and then providing you with updates time and again, I'm happy to report that we are actually on the cusp of a major victory. In fact, we're going to win the war. We've won battles here and there, but we're about to take home the W entirely because, as the New York Times reports, the Biden administration plans to bring back open internet rules that were enacted during the Obama administration and then repealed by the Trump administration. In a speech on Tuesday, Jessica Rosenworcel,
the internet for a bunch of minority communities.
Chairwoman of the Federal Communications Commission, declared that the repeal in 2017 put the FCC on the wrong side of history, the wrong side of the law, and the wrong side of the public. In other words, Ajit Pai's pro-corporate legacy is going to be repealed in its entirety. This is very good news, to say the least. And we haven't seen the actual proposal from Rosenworcel yet, but this is a longtime proponent of net neutrality. She supported it as an FCC commissioner under the Obama administration, and during Ajit Pai's reign of terror, she fought against him. But now she's going to be able to cook up her own repeal of the repeal of net neutrality, and I am confident that whatever she produces, it's going to be fantastic. So I'm not worried about that. But if you're wondering why it took so long, well, it's because the FCC has been deadlocked with 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats. So that means anything that Jessica Rosenworcel comes up with, well, there's going to be a tie and nothing will get through. And on top of that, Senate Republicans have obstructed Biden's nominee for over a year. In fact, Biden's pro-net neutrality nominee, Gigi Sohn, was smeared in an AstroTurf campaign likely funded by internet service providers. And Republican senators also smeared her as a woke radical.
If that's the case, it's almost certainly racist and funded by Nazis as well.
It says she would have been the first openly gay commissioner. Oh, boo!
Homophobia!
Leftist, and
good.
Unfortunately,
so big
it worked.
Thing of comparing her to pedophiles.
Once Joe Manchin announced that he would be siding with Republicans and voting against her, she realized that she effectively had no path towards confirmation and chose to withdraw her nomination. But on September 7th, we finally made some progress because Biden's new nominee, Ana Gomez, was confirmed as FCC commissioner, meaning that Democrats now had a majority on the FCC to put forth policies that they can actually vote on and enact. Now, Ana Gomez has worked in both the public and private sector, and she was formerly a telecom attorney, much like Ajit Pai. But I think that her being from within the industry and also working in the public sector, she's worked with the FCC as well, probably eased Republicans' fears, and they voted for her. But unlike Ajit Pai, she actually does support net neutrality, and all that matters is that she's going to be that vote that we need to bring back net neutrality. And she is. And with her confirmation, the FCC is now in a position to roll back everything that Ajit Pai did. Now, it's been a while since I've talked about net neutrality, so I do want to take some time to explain what that means to people who are new to this issue, because this is something that is very heavily propagandized.
Pedophile.
Yep, and I think Mike's going to cover this too, because for all of you who don't probably know is, what is net neutrality?
What that means for people who are new to this issue, because this is something that is very heavily propagandized, and it's difficult to find trustworthy sources on this issue because the internet service providers have so much at stake and they spread so much disinformation to confuse people. But net neutrality, for those unaware, is a good thing. It is something that we need. Net neutrality requires...
And all the services they can deny minorities.
Neutrality, for those unaware, is a good thing. It is something that we need. Net neutrality requires internet service providers like Comcast, Verizon, and AT&T to treat all web traffic equally, which means that Verizon, for example, can't throttle traffic to Netflix in order to get people to use their streaming service instead.
And for all of you who don't know, throttle means slow down access to the site. So if you try to go to the site will probably go slower than it otherwise would be because of net neutrality, because they would on purpose make the site be forever to load, so you go somewhere else to try and go to their site instead and buy their service instead of doing something else. It's anti-consumer, anti-capitalism and all that.
It could potentially harm competition. But also it means that internet service providers aren't able to carve up the internet.
They wanted to try and carve up into how TV packages and stuff like that, where you can get certain channels and all that. They wanted to privatize it even more to break up the internet into, you want this, you gotta pay $5 a month. You want this, you gotta pay $10 a month, instead of being all just by default. This is why net neutrality is needed to prevent this stuff from happening, because this is just too bullshit.
They have to offer the entire internet to customers, and this image right here demonstrates what the internet could look like, where ISPs pitch lower cost internet options like a social media package, but don't give people access to other options unless they pay, like entertainment, so they couldn't stream Netflix, for example. And the ultimate goal here was to basically turn the internet into cable TV. Right, so they can just charge people more. It was a scam. It was all about internet service provider greed. And under Trump's FCC, under the leadership of Ajit Pai, they made that legal. They made it so these internet service providers could do that. And with any regulatory changes, there's always a required period beforehand where the public is allowed to weigh in and comment on the changes. But the process under Ajit Pai was deeply corrupt. The FCC's comment system was flooded with millions of fake comments. And we later found out that these comments were being funded by broadband companies themselves, who were also simultaneously heavily lobbying in favor of the repeal of net neutrality. And to make matters worse, Ajit Pai's repeal of net neutrality tried to preempt state laws on the subject, which meant that if Utah, for example, tried to pass its own net neutrality law in defiance of the FCC.
Which, by the way, a lot of states have done after net neutrality was repealed. A whole bunch of states now have net neutrality.
You see, well, that law would be illegal automatically because that's what Ajit Pai...
Oh, yeah. And so much for state rights. Am I right once again? You're against it when it comes to, legalizing weed, legalizing abortion, and also against it for states that want net neutrality. So much for state rights again.
Repeal of net neutrality included. This was supported by
states' rights when the Republican lawmaker in North Carolina attempted to not only put up a law that not only would have banned abortion at 0 weeks, but legalized murdering women who were seeking abortions.
Because that's what the right
senators like Ted Cruz, who wrote op-eds in favor of this, and at the same time he also took a lot of money from internet service providers. But thankfully a court struck down that provision, which was very, very bad news for internet service providers, because that was the core of their repeal of net neutrality. Because state after state after state ended up passing their own net neutrality laws, states like Oregon, Washington, California, New York, and others. And some of these states had net neutrality protections that were arguably stronger than the ones that were introduced under the Obama administration. And these state laws totally undermine the national net neutrality repeal put in place by the Trump administration, because if you have all of these states, the most populous states like California and New York, undermining the FCC with this appeal, well, obviously that's bad news for ISPs. It's going to make it much more difficult for them to roll out these draconian changes that they initially planned to. But that's not to say that the repeal of net neutrality hasn't been damaging, because it has. One example is the Santa Clara Fire Department in California being literally throttled by Verizon during a firefight until they paid the company double.
Yeah, guys, see what I mean?
Yeah.
They did this to a fire department, for crying out loud. That's how bad this is. And that's why net neutrality must be there. God, I cannot wait to see like hardcore libertarians defend it after hearing this.
Once they paid, the
no, they're not
throttle was
libertarians. They're Lolbertarians. Remember this? You ever heard of the saying, "Scratch a libertarian, find a fascist"?
Yep, because
that's the thing. Have you actually noticed? Basically, all the libertarians from like 5-10 years ago, every single one of them is either now a lefty or a Nazi.
Or as I always said growing up, I'm a libertarian, all but fuck like gay people, fuck abortion, all that. You just say it because you don't want to be labeled as a Republican, have like all the negative connotations with it. But you still agree with them. That's how I always saw it.
Not immediately. Now, Verizon claims that it was just a mistake and had nothing to do with net neutrality, even though they've lobbied against it for years. But the Santa Clara Fire Department, on the other hand, wasn't buying it, and they then submitted that incident as evidence in a lawsuit against the FCC as a reason to reinstate net neutrality at the national level. But needless to say, California later passed their own net neutrality law once the preemption rule was struck down because, I mean, Verizon's greed literally endangered public safety. A lot of us anticipated these ISPs just carving up the internet. Nobody thought that they would do something that evil where they literally throttle firefighters during a firefight. And for those of you unaware, yes, they do need the internet so they can coordinate during large firefights. So this actually inhibited their ability to fight fires. So it goes to show you that net neutrality was far more important than any of us had imagined even. But now net neutrality is coming back. It's going to return to all 50 states. And I promise you, internet service providers are not going to be happy about this. And
they can cope.
They can cope, mold, sieve, and dilate.
And of course, a shit pie can mold with his shit-eating grin as always.
Expect to see a major disinformation campaign, especially during that public comment period. Because if the ISPs spent millions funding tons of fake comments, then imagine what they're going to do when net neutrality is coming back. So we need to be prepared. And Evan Greer of Battle for the Net writes, very shortly we will update battleforthenet.com to make it super easy for ordinary internet users to submit official net neutrality comments to the FCC docket. We know the phony opposition and telecom lobbying is incoming. Time to make our voices heard again. And they are exactly correct. So even though we are on the cusp of victory, we can't give up and get complacent. We have to be very cognizant of the fact that there's going to be some manipulation. There's going to be a lot of propaganda, particularly from Fox News and Republican senators, some Democratic Party senators like Joe Manchin in particular, who are funded by ISPs. But I'm going to link you to the battle for the...
Joe Manchin is a Republican, though, remember?
But Boss said you must vote for him because he's a Democrat, remember?
He's a Republican. He's a Republican, Walsh.
The net website down below, so you can also submit your own comments, and I would highly encourage you to do that. I think that we have to be active to make sure that we get these protections that we fought for now for years. And I would highly encourage you to follow Battle for the Net, because this is one of the best organizations when it comes to net neutrality and just internet openness in general. But I also want to read you this statement by Demand Progress in full, because I think that they put it best, and it's a really great summary if you want to share this with your friends. Quote, "We are thrilled that the FCC will finally be able to undo the damage done during the Trump administration under FCC Chair Ajit Pai and restore net neutrality. We applaud Chair Jessica Rosenworcel for recognizing the importance of strong open internet protections and her immediate use of the newly full commission to restore the agency's authority to oversee broadband providers under Title II. Giant corporations and their lobbyists blocked President Biden from filling the final FCC seat for more than 2 years, and they will try every trick to block or delay the agency from restoring net neutrality now. The commission must remain resolute and fully restore free and open internet protections to ensure broadband service providers like Comcast and Verizon treat all content equally. This means providers cannot censor content, create fast lanes for their own products, throttle traffic, or block access to their competitors. Americans' internet experience should not be at the whims of corporate executives whose primary concerns are the pockets of their stakeholders and the corporation's bottom line." Very well said. So it's not over yet, obviously. We're going to have to strongly push back against anti-net neutrality talking points that we see from Republican politicians, right-wing grifters, and others. But make no mistake about it, this is a very, very positive move.
They're more like plankton.
And if you care about freedom on the internet, if you care about the internet being open for everyone and to everyone, then this is a really good day for you.
Yep, absolutely awesome, as net neutrality is needed so badly. So yeah, we gotta see about this
Absolutely.
awesome news, that a ship pie is probably mauled and very bad about so much too.
I love that. It's awesome.
Thank God it's finally coming back once and for all, and hopefully a ship pie and all you dipshit far-right libertarian retards will go away forever after all this crap, because you
It's
were
not they're not.
embarrassed.
Remember, they're not libertarians. They're Lolbertarians.
Yep. So now, on to the next topic.
Number 2 is Biden joins UAW strikes as Trump bricks himself.
I think
God,
we
he's a
covered this in
fucking
the
idiot.
last episode too, about how Biden was gonna go on join strikers at the UAW. Well,
Yep,
he
I
actually
remember
did,
that.
and funny enough,
Yep.
Trump also did too. However, they were scabs, and he actually didn't get involved whatsoever, and that's where he bricked himself came from, and he made a
Yep.
complete and utter fool of himself.
Ooh,
So now
yep.
we get to laugh at him, as Biden actually is the actual pro-worker president, unlike
Yep.
the orangutan, who's a freaking retard. So yeah,
Yep.
let's go watch him make a fool of himself, as Biden is actually making himself more likely to get my vote next time around.
So history was made the other day, y'all. For the first time, maybe ever, a president decided to walk a picket line to stand in solidarity with striking union workers. Of course, I'm talking about Biden going to the UAW picket line. So here, let me show you a little bit of video from it. Ilhan Omar tweeted about it. Let's listen.
You've heard me say it many times. Wall Street didn't build the country. The middle class built the country. Unions built the middle class. That's a fact. So let's keep going. You deserve what you've earned, and you've earned a hell of a lot more than you're getting paid now. Thank you very much.
See now, old Joe actually making sense and being progressive for
Yeah.
once. Ain't that nice?
Yeah.
Now, you also had Sean Fain give a rousing speech with Biden standing right next to him, and in the speech, Sean Fain was going after the billionaire class and talking about class solidarity, and it was kind of amazing to see, man. It really was. Now,
I'm getting Bernie
at the same
vibes.
time that this historic
Yep.
moment happened, we also have the media horrifically failing us. So look at this. This was in
Of
CBS
course.
Detroit. Biden and Trump to join UAW picket line in Michigan this week.
Yeah, that's
That,
only
ladies
half
and
true.
gentlemen,
Yeah,
is absolute
yeah.
nonsense. So as Adam Johnson points out here, this media lie simply won't die. The New York Times says Trump joining a picket line is, quote, unlikely. There's no plans to do so, and the UAW has repeatedly rejected Trump.
Oh,
Thus
you
far,
got
all that's
cock
planned
blocked.
is a campaign pep rally that may or may
Good.
not be in the same zip code as a picket line. Okay, but it gets worse. So now there's further speculation going on. Look at this. First, let's start with a smaller tweet. Trump is going to Detroit to speak to an audience of scabs at a non-union shop in an event organized by the National Right to Work Foundation. Stop saying he's going to talk
Supporting
about
right to work
Now, another-
legislation, of course.
Yeah.
No surprise.
Supporting
Some of these people
supporting wage slavery, if not outright slavery.
Yep. And for all of you who don't know, don't buy the right to work framing. It's a lie to try and undermine unions, to try and make you all earn less and work more. It's
Yep.
an evil idea
And-
that needs to be
And
destroyed.
their probable eventual goal is work terrible work from
Work
your
to your
crib
death,
to your
like I used to be.
grave.
Yeah, work
Yep.
to your death with no benefits, safety, or anything. Which, hey, conservatives and dipshit libertarians would love to see people die again on the work. And hey, that's not
Yep.
happening because of unions, which you all shit on
Exactly.
so much.
even make $15 an hour, the people he's going to talk to. The organizers of Trump's scab event, the National Right to Work Foundation, are also working with Starbucks to try to decertify our unions. Starbucks, which has spent most of its 50-year history pretending to be progressive, is once again in lockstep with Trump.
You do remember we covered, I think it was in the last episode, where Biden did that rule, and if corporations tried to union buzz, the unions automatically accepted.
Yep, I remember
Oh
that.
boy, I would like to see him try that and pay dearly.
So the idea that there's some sort of equivalence
Exactly,
here,
yep.
that they're doing the same thing, it is not remotely close. Biden actually went to the picket line with striking UAW workers. And Trump is speaking to non-union workers at basically a campaign rally adjacent to what the striking workers are doing. And by the way, Trump keeps using bogus arguments on this issue, where he keeps bringing up the electric cars as like the primary sticking point. No, the primary sticking point is the executives are getting a 46% pay increase and the workers haven't gotten that. The workers want a 40% pay increase. They want a 4-day work week. So it really comes down to pay and benefits, and Trump is pretending
But that's
like
one
the main
less
sticking
penny
point
for
is,
us.
they're mad
You
about
know
the
how we
electric
care
cars.
about that.
It's absolute fake
And we want the
populism
right
now. I
to
got even
murder
more for
our
you.
workers
So
if they
Sean
do
Fain
wrong.
went on CNN, and he really set the record straight. Watch
And to
this.
die on the
Is the former
job.
president right? Does
Yep.
the push for electric vehicles here in the United States hurt your union?
It doesn't if it's a just transition, and that's what we're fighting for right now. It doesn't if the companies do the right thing and put this work under, our agreements or to our standards. And again, it's the companies driving this race to the bottom, and they're using our tax dollars to finance it. And I find a pathetic irony that the former president is going to hold a rally for union members at a non-union business. And all you have to do is look at his track record. His track record speaks for itself. In 2008, during the Great Recession, he blamed UAW members. He blamed our contracts for everything that was wrong with these companies. That's a complete lie. In 2015, when he was running for president, he talked about doing a rotation, taking all these good-paying jobs in the Midwest and moving them somewhere in the South where people work for less money, and then to make
Hello,
people better for their jobs back
outsourcing.
at lower wages.
Yep,
And
I
the
remember.
ultimate
Yep,
show of
exactly.
how much he cares about our workers was in 2019 when he was the president of the United States. Where was he then? Our workers at GM were on strike for 60 days, for 2 months. They were out there on the picket lines. I didn't see him hold a rally. I didn't see him stand up at the picket line, and I sure as hell didn't hear him comment about it.
So here's
He
the
was
question.
missing in action.
Here's the question to President. What about the meeting with Trump? Would you meet with him when he's in Detroit tomorrow?
I see no point in meeting with him because I don't think the man has any bit of care about what our workers stand for, what the working class stands for. He serves a billionaire class, and that's what's wrong with this country.
Trump also outsourced 200,000 jobs and incentivized outsourcing in his massive tax break for the wealthy and corporations. He is not a supporter of the working class, and Sean Fain sees through his fake populist tap dance in a way that the media unfortunately doesn't. I got one more clip for you here. In 2008, when the unions agreed to take a haircut when, the big three were getting bailed out because of the Great Recession, they sacrificed. And by the way, they sacrificed in bad times, and then when times got good, the executives and the owners didn't say, oh, we're going to, increase your pay along with it. No, they had to go on strike in order to try to get a solid pay increase that is hand in hand with how much giant pay increases the executives are getting. And this is to say nothing of all the stock buybacks they did. They spent a tremendous amount of money on stock buybacks while screwing the workers. Anyway, at the time, they took a haircut, and here was what Trump had to say about unions.
It's years and years of deep-seated. And I see it in my own company. Well, my company is a lot newer. Over the years, we have Christmas bonus time, right? And we've done well. Now, I pay somebody a bonus 20 years ago. Then you give them a little more, a little more, a little more. Now it's 20 years later. All of a sudden, I'm saying, I'm paying them too much. I'm paying them too much. I'm paying some guys much more than I should be paying. You know why? Time. Same thing with the unions. They get a little increase, they get another.
What do your guys
40,
do?
50
You give
years
them a
ago.
condo, or what do you give them?
No, I just give them bonuses. But, I always
But
like
I
to give
know
them
it's
little
not a
bit
hickory
more.
cheese lot.
No,
I know that.
I'm not even talking about top-level people. I'm talking about, you go a little bit. All of a sudden, 20 years is up, and now you're saying, man, that's a lot of money. I'm sitting behind my
But see,
desk
then they
signing these
expect
checks.
it, right?
They expect
December
it.
rolls
And
around and I think Don's going to be good to me.
Neil, it's the same thing with the unions.
That's right.
They get their little 5%. They get another 2%. They get another 3%, 4%. Then all of a sudden, they're making more money than the people that own the company.
Does that sound like a guy who's pro-union? I don't think so. So the media is failing massively here. Biden is actually walking the picket line. You look at his recent NLRB rulings, it's definitely pro-labor. And Trump is faking it, and the misreporting is giving people the misimpression Trump actually might be fighting for workers when it's the exact opposite.
Hey, y'all, do
Thank
me a
you,
favor
media,
and
as
like-
always.
Yep. Thank you, stupid media and corporate hate speech.
So yeah, what do you gotta say about that? Biden actually being progressive, and Trump, of course, shitting and bricking himself as always.
Yep, that's what he always does, doesn't it?
Yep.
Doesn't he?
Fucking idiot.
Next up.
And also, yeah, do you remember all the idiot leftists like Brianna Joy Gray that dismissed this last time that we covered?
Yes. Well,
Guess
that's
what?
because they did. Well, guess what? Brianna Joy Gray and all them, remember, they're not allowed to give Joe Biden credit on anything ever.
Mm-hmm. But guess what? When he does something good, people, you have to give him praise for it. And we don't like him, but this is undeniably good, so you shut up and give him the praise. Alright, so now you clowns have been wrecked too. On to the next topic.
Now, finally, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer have released Dianne Feinstein from the dark side of the Force and allowed her to die.
Yep. So Dianne Feinstein, who, oh my God, I think we covered her a few bumps ago. She died recently, and finally, long overdue. As oh my God, she was, like oh my God, I think a few months we covered her. She was like pretty much bedridden, like stuck on a wheelchair.
She was already dead. Her brain had already died. Her body just hadn't caught up yet.
Yep.
Reminds me of on my aunt's side, her dad. So I'm on phone about 3 days before he died, and genuinely he looked like the brain had died, the body just hadn't caught up. That's what I saw. That's how I saw Feinstein.
Yeah, for months, she couldn't even do any work. Gee, maybe we shouldn't have a senator who's brain dead and all that and can't do anything on the job. Maybe they should be just automatically forced to retire or stuff like that. Just saying. So yeah, she stayed on for months and months and months, even though she couldn't do anything. She held up a whole bunch of stuff because she was too brain dead. Well, she finally died, and now of course, for a few days after she died, Democrats of course lost their Senate lead. They had the tiebreaker once again, but since when a senator dies, the governor of their state can appoint a replacement for them until they have a special election. And Newsom did that. As he replaced, I can't remember her name. I tried to look up her policies, but her Wikipedia page says nothing other than she's a black lesbian, pretty much. So, yeah, id poll, whoop-de-doo. But nothing on policy, so I have no idea if they're just a neo-lib like Newsom or a progressive. I have literally no idea, unfortunately. And she's probably going to not be there for long. They'll probably have a special election. And then, of course, that special election is probably going to be replaced with I guess her term was up next year, so potentially another election next year. And of course, remember, Newsom wanted to have her retire months ago because he wanted to replace her, but Pelosi would not allow that because
as I said, Darth Pelosi and Darth Schumer,
they wanted her to stay as long. They wanted her to stay as long as possible.
And they were using, and as I said, they were using. I think they're using Night Sister magic to animate Dianne Feinstein's corpse.
Yeah, they wanted Newsom wanted to replace her, but Pelosi didn't want her to get replaced. She wanted Feinstein to live all the way to, I'm guessing, next year when her term was up, retired, and then have someone she wants instead to replace her. Absolutely pathetic that you let an old woman who should have retired, spent the last few months of her life in a retirement home or hospice or whatever, instead of, literally doing nothing for the country and all that. If anything, being a detriment because she couldn't do anything. Gee, she was being Dementia Joe pretty much the last few months. That's how sad it is.
Only worse.
Mm-hmm.
Only worse. Like I said, you know what I reckon is going to happen with Biden? If he does get the second term, he's going to get through the second term. He is then going to leave Congress and drop dead in 6 months.
That has happened before. Presidents have died like a few months after they left. So that wouldn't be a surprise. And all because he's going to be up there. Because, God, if he did win re-election January 2029, he'd be 86 for crying out loud.
Yeah.
He's up there. Feinstein made it to 90 for crying out loud. Yeah. We'll see about that. But, yeah. I guess, sorry to hear about she's died, but I honestly don't like her, so I don't really care. And I don't, like I said, I don't know this woman that replaces Feinstein, whoever Newsom picked, but I think I trust him more than Pelosi, because I don't like Pelosi whatsoever. Anything she wants, I'm pretty much actively against, because we know what she wants to be very bad. There's a chance maybe Newsom's pick would actually work out for temporarily, but of course, since she just became a senator temporarily, I have no idea what her values are, so I can't say if it was a good thing or bad thing at the moment. So yeah, what do you have to say about this?
Well, about time that Darth Pelosi and Darth Schumer released the poor girl with their released from their night magic.
Yeah, and
Yeah, about time. Hopefully, she's an actually reasonably progressive and not like either a neoliberal shill or a fucking turf or something.
But of course, she most likely will be replaced as a temporary pick
Yep.
at the moment. But we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, Feinstein, you should have retired several months ago and had all this stuff. You could have retired. Newsom could have gotten his replacement right then and there, and who knows, maybe a lot of stuff that you held up wouldn't have been held up. But no, you refused to retire and caused a whole bunch of problems, and now you're dead now. So,
Yep.
you could have just retired, spent the last few months of your life at home or wherever, instead of doing literally nothing for the country. You would have done a lot more for the country by just retiring right then and there. So yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, I guess with that out of the way, on to the next topic.
That'll be Kevin McCarthy was removed as Speaker. Ho ho ho.
Oh boy, this was crazy! That just happened recently. And of course, this wasn't the thing I thought we were going to be talking about. So for all of you who don't know, up to a week ago, lead up to the end of September, America once again, for like the 4th or 5th time in 10 years, almost faced another government shutdown, which is not good whatsoever. Despite idiot Republicans and conservatives think it's good, it's not, and you're fucking idiot if you think it is. Because because Republicans would not pass a spending bill, which something we need to remove. We need to abolish shutdowns and all that. The government should not be shut down because conservatives can't ever just accept that majority of Americans don't agree with their policies and pass what the progressive Democrats want, and that's the end of it. But thankfully, McCarthy actually made a deal with Democrats to avert the shutdown, with I think like a few hours left before it would happen. So yay,
that was
shutdown, whoop-de-doo. And the only thing that us on the left lost, which, well, some on the left would think this is a good thing we lost, is that there was no increase in Ukraine funding for the Russo-Ukraine war. But
because remember that remember that's the true lefties that are really just we want a multipolar world. What they really want is a unipolar world under China and America to just be completely isolationist and not exist.
And have China and Russia do everything, of course, and be imperialist. Because hey, they're not America, so that's automatically good, remember?
Yep.
So yeah,
I remember that.
There was no increased funding for Ukraine, but that I think could be fixed very soon, so hopefully it's not a big deal. And if that's literally the only thing that's lost, like the Republican, like Matt Gaetz and all the idiot far-right dipshits, they want huge spending cuts on so much stuff. Kyle covered too, and it was a long video. Didn't get to watch yet. So they lost. They didn't get anything they want other than the Ukraine fund, which hopefully will get resolved soon, and no shutdown for them. Welp, Matt Gaetz and all the dipshit Republicans had a complete and utter meltdown that had McCarthy dared make a deal with the Democrats to avoid a terrible thing that is the shutdown, which you guys have instigated multiple times in 10 years. The fact that you're still even in power after doing it multiple times is pathetic. Like, come on, after doing it the first time when Ted Cruz did it 10 years ago, you should have been permanently gone from never having power again after that. Because that was terrible for the country, for crying out loud. Absolutely stupid. So, they actually, with just enough votes, they removed McCarthy as the speaker. Which I think was the first time in over 100 years, if not more, if the first time ever, that Speaker of the House was repealed. Or ousted.
Yep.
So, yeah. The Republicans basically just decapitated themselves, and they're now in a full-blown civil war because of it. Because a whole bunch of Republicans are very, very, very angry that Gaetz and them kicked McCarthy out as a speaker. And now they got no one, and of course, the Gaetz and all them are going to act like, oh, we're going to get someone we like. No. What makes... You do know that it's more likely that the Republicans, if they have any sort of sense and control, would probably try to make an agreement with the Democrats to get someone who's probably even more moderate or better than McCarthy. Like you, and the thing is too, McCarthy gave you everything you wanted pretty much and all that, and you still turned on him. Like you pretty much make it like impossible to work with when you do something this insane.
That's the point. That's the point. That's the point. That's all. That's what they want. They love that.
So yeah, complete shit show, and let's watch Kyle's video on it.
So we've been discussing the Republican Civil War in the House of Representatives. You have the Matt Gaetz faction, who are more purity testers and virtue signalers, and they're trying to act like we're shaking up Washington and we're...
Like Breonna Joy Gray and the other idiots on the left, they won't accept good things when they show up with Biden. Now these guys are doing with the reverse with McCarthy.
Changing the game.
Yep.
And he's fighting against Kevin McCarthy, who's the Speaker of the House, who's balancing many different Republican interests. You know, more moderate Republicans who happen to live in, like, blue districts versus, you know, very red, very MAGA Republican districts. So he's trying to balance all these things. Matt Gaetz is making many demands. And look, basically Matt Gaetz' strategy completely backfired, even though he won't acknowledge it. Because they had a vote on, like, the Matt Gaetz wish list, his preferred continuing resolution, which had deep cuts to all these necessary programs. I mean, it slashed Meals on Wheels to the bone. It slashed heating assistance for the poor to the bone.
Which is what we use.
The WIC program, right?
Yeah.
That's the baby formula for, like, newborn babies. They cut that to the bone, right? The list goes on and on of all the things. 30% cut here, 50% cut here. It would have fired 200,000 teachers. This Republican continuing resolution. That's what Matt Gaetz wanted. Well, they had a vote on it, and it failed miserably. And so because they're such hardliners, they made it so that McCarthy knew there's no deal I can make here. So McCarthy had to go to moderate Democrats and say, let's just do a clean continuing resolution. Strip out the...
This is, I think, too, almost what, yeah, Kyle covered before. This is what, like, the Tea Partiers pretty much forced John Boehner when he was Speaker to do with Obama and all that multiple times. Because remember, Kyle covered this before. Like, after Obama was reelected, there was a deal in place where Obama would have cut Social Security benefits and all that, gutted Social Security, basically giving the Republicans what they wanted. And what did the Tea Partiers do? No, not enough. We want more. And thankfully, because they were idiots and didn't accept what they got, no deal happened. And thankfully, that helped everyone else out because fuck you guys. Like, when you got something when you got something, you need to just take it. But I'm so glad that you were so insistent on not taking it because you would have fucked me over 10 years later with my family and others.
Other than that, 45-day clean continuing resolution, and that's what ended up getting passed. So Matt Gaetz and his purity testing and his virtue signaling inadvertently helped Democrats massively. So that's why, in a weird way, I support this, man. I hope Matt Gaetz and Kevin McCarthy keep going to war over and over and over. Well,
like skeletons shooting each other in Minecraft.
Kevin
Matt Gaetz
is calling for a vote to oust Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House. Now, if you remember, it took like over a dozen rounds of voting for Kevin McCarthy to become Speaker of the House. And
I think we covered it too. I think it was the most ever to get votes to become Speaker of the House since probably all the way back to pre-Civil War. Like, it took like 15 rounds or something like that because almost always it would be just first vote done. It took them so long. I'm trying to figure out how long it's been, but man, it was a long 15 ballots it took, for crying out loud.
In order for him to get that position, he had to agree to certain terms. And one of the terms...
Yep, it was the longest since, pre-Civil War, so 160 years. That's the longest it's been since.
Basically, you can have a majority vote to oust him at any point in time if even one member of the caucus calls for a vote. Well, now Matt Gaetz is saying, I'm calling for that vote. So here he is on CNN. Let's watch, and then we'll discuss it further.
So you have been threatening to topple McCarthy, issue a motion to vacate the speakership if he worked with Democrats to fund the government with a clean CR, clean government spending bill, which is exactly what he did on Friday and Saturday. The House gavels back in tomorrow at noon. Are you going to make a motion to vacate?
Speaker McCarthy made an agreement with House conservatives in January, and since then he has been in brazen, repeated material breach of that agreement. This agreement that he made with Democrats to really blow past a lot of the spending guardrails we'd set up is a last straw. And then overnight I learned that Kevin McCarthy had a secret deal with Democrats on Ukraine. So as he was baiting Republicans to vote for a continuing resolution without Ukraine money, saying that we were going to jam the Senate on Ukraine, he then turns around and makes a secret deal. Now, I know you and I probably have...
Now, here's why that is an absurd criticism. They did the clean continuing resolution, but they stripped out Ukraine funding in the clean continuing resolution. It's the one thing that was changed. So that was effectively a concession to McCarthy.
The only
and to
thing we
Republicans.
lost, like I
The
said,
Democrats
which
had no
I'm
problem.
not
Okay, fine.
happy about
We'll
either.
that out. On the condition of, we'll have a up or down vote on just the Ukraine aid later on. So why would
And you better fucking pass it too.
Matt Gaetz object to that? Why would you object to that? Because if there's an up or down vote on just that issue later on, well, you're so against it, just vote against it. And, whip your caucus up into agreeing with you to say, we're going to vote against this. So why does he act like that's a betrayal? No, this is like standard operating procedure in negotiation when it comes to politics. He's acting like this is some absurd thing. It's not like the deal was, and automatically next we'll get the Ukraine funding. No, it's we're going to have a vote on that separately. This is standard politics, and he's acting like it's some sort of a betrayal. That's absurd.
But however you think about that question, it should be subject to open review, analysis, and not some backroom deal.
No, but that's what the vote is. The vote is open review and analysis and debate and then a vote. Just because you agree to have a vote on it doesn't mean it's automatically going to pass. God, he's so Weasley, man. He's such a virtue signaler. I hate this guy. But I also love him because he's causing a lot of trouble on the right and inadvertently helping Democrats.
Motion to vacate tomorrow?
I do intend to file a motion to vacate against Speaker McCarthy this week. I think we need to rip off the Band-Aid. I think we need to move on with new leadership that can be trustworthy. Look, the one thing everybody has in common is that nobody trusts Kevin McCarthy. He lied to Biden. He lied to House conservatives. He had appropriators marking to a different number altogether. And the reason we were backed up against this shutdown politics is not a bug of the system. It's a feature. Kevin McCarthy's goal was to make multiple contradictory promises, to delay everything, back us up against shutdown politics, and at the end of the day, blow past the spending guardrails he'd agreed.
Okay, so he's trying to get rid of him. He's trying to get rid of him. Again, I find this hilarious. So Kevin McCarthy's promises that he made to Matt Gaetz were like, okay, we'll have a clean up or down vote on term limits. We'll have a clean up or down vote on a balanced budget amendment. We'll have a clean up or down vote on all these standard Republican, deficit hawk, I'm tough on spending, all that sort of stuff. And he's acting like he's a hero and he's a revolutionary and he's anti-establishment. No, you're actually taking the more pro-establishment position if you want to cut spending to the bone. And so for him to be mad that McCarthy cut a deal with Democrats for this 45-day continuing resolution, it's like, no, the reason why he did that is because the things you were asking for were absurd. He also would like to get those things through. He just realizes that whatever nonsense, cockamamie, insane continuing resolution Matt Gaetz would come up with his Freedom Caucus buddies, it's guaranteed to die in the Senate. This, he doesn't understand.
Exactly.
You're not going to get our support.
Right?
And then even if you somehow did, Biden's going to veto it, and you don't have enough to override his veto, so too bad for you. You don't get what you want.
And so let's say Kevin McCarthy gets his entire...
And then even when you get what you want with the No Ukraine Fund, you still say no.
Entire wish list. Everything he wants through. That exact spending bill, which cut everything to the bone, let's say they got that through. It would just die in the Senate. And then it goes right back to you guys in the House, and it's like, okay, so now you got to come up with a new one. And what happens then? Well, then you got to drop some of the things from your wish list if we're going to get it through. And then he would drop some of the things from his wish list, but not enough. It would get through the House, and then it would die in the Senate again. Right? And even if it were to get through the Senate, it wouldn't be signed by Biden. If you're massively cutting Meals on Wheels and home heating assistance and 200,000 teachers, etc. So, he's a rebel with a cause, but the cause is a stupid cause. And he also doesn't understand how Washington works. He doesn't understand that McCarthy is balancing all of these different interests. And he made it so McCarthy had to go to moderate Democrats to get a deal. And then he's mad that the deal is not the stuff he wants. Well, yeah, you could have gotten more of what you wanted if you negotiated in good faith and only kept 2 or 3 of the things in your wish list in there. And the straight up or down vote.
I remember that.
Like I said too, Obama back in 2012 agreed to cut Social Security funding, and the deal was there, but the Tea Partiers thankfully said no to it. So yeah, Democrats are very weak. They will fold if given enough pressure, but you blew it.
Same deal. Let's say you have a vote. Let's say his balanced budget amendment gets through the House. It dies in the Senate. And then and even if it got through the Senate, which it wouldn't, it would die on Biden's desk. And so it's like all of this, guys, this is why I tell you. He's a virtue signaler, and he's a purity tester from the right. He's purity testing from the right. Now you could say, oh, okay, well, at least he happens to believe in something. Fair. But all of those things are stupid. And then
evil.
Seems to not understand that he's playing a losing hand anyway. Homie's got 7-2 offsuit, and you're up against a pair of kings. And it's like, what are you going to do with that? Well, I know what he's going to do with that. He's going to throw a tantrum, and he's going to try to get Kevin McCarthy to resign. But again, I tell you all of that to tell you this at the end. God bless. Keep going. In fact, AOC, Ilhan Omar, and many other Democrats are coming out and they're saying, if McCarthy proposes the thing to get rid of, or excuse me, if Gates proposes the thing to get rid of McCarthy as Speaker, we'll vote for it. We'll vote for it. So in other words, we're not going to.
And of course, a whole bunch of Republicans in Congress are mad at the Democrats did because they thought that they would defend him if this happened after making the deal. Well, they want to get their own Speaker House back in too, even though he's a piece of shit in Jeffries. So so you shouldn't be really surprised that they would turn against you if they can get possibly someone they want in.
We'll vote for it. And then what happens? Total and utter chaos on the Republican side because they don't have anybody to replace Kevin McCarthy. There's nobody to replace him. It's not happening. So basically the question is, should Democrats vote for a continued civil war on the right where they eat each other alive?
I don't think there really is. The Democrats need to do anything because the Republicans keep shooting themselves in the foot. What the heck do they need to do?
They love tearing each other apart.
Yep, just let them keep tearing each other apart. I don't think Democrats need to really do anything.
Yes, that's one way to do it. Another way to go about it, honestly, the Democrats can't lose in this scenario because even if they vote to keep Kevin McCarthy, well, then they have leverage over Kevin McCarthy. And again, he'll be forced to continue to make deals with them, and the Democrats can extract some
so
of their
much
own
for being
priorities.
majority power. But of course, now maybe the Democrats should have been smart and done that because then we could extract stuff from McCarthy. But they didn't do that. And I also found out too, he was the first Speaker of the House to ever be voted out too, in almost 250 years of American history. The first one ever too.
Civil war, let them rip each other to shreds, or end the GOP civil war, back McCarthy. In which instance, he's going to owe you. And then you can get some of your policy priorities through, even a Republican House. This is something Cenk Uger's been talking about. Simple idea that polls are like 80%. Paid family leave. Okay, well, what if on the next government shutdown fight, you got the same civil war brewing on the right, Matt Gaetz making all these demands.
Like I said, we need to get rid of the shutdown bullshit. It needs to go. This causes too much problems for America. It needs to go.
We'll keep spending levels the same.
Yep.
But now you got to do something for us because we're bailing you out again, and the thing you're going to do is paid family leave. Then you have every Democrat voting for paid family leave in the House, a bunch of Republicans because McCarthy knows I have to make a deal with the Democrats, and then it gets to the Senate, it could pass in the Senate, and then Biden signs it. Boom, you got paid family leave, using leverage over the Republicans, taking advantage of their civil war. I love it.
Yeah, Democrats now you think it should have helped McCarthy there, and then we could have gotten stuff out of it. But of course they were stupid too.
Final point to make in this conversation. Look at this, guys. So Matt Gaetz tweeted this. House GOP members are seeking to quickly expel Gaetz if the ethics report comes back with findings of guilt. Following threats to vacate McCarthy, one tells me no one can stand him at this point. A smart guy with no morals. So they're referring to this ethics.
That's
report
weird that you call Gaetz smart.
And the ethics report, of course, is like all this very questionable stuff that he's engaged in.
Do I need to remind him? I think we covered this a while ago that he was accused of like sexually grooming a minor or something like that.
Yes, I remember that.
So yeah, I think unfortunately, I think he got away with a good chunk of it. But I think a part of the government is still checking in on it because if that's true, you gotta go. You can't be a congressman when you're a sex offender. Ugh, God.
And so Matt Gaetz is acting like, I'm a victim! Nah, dude, you kind of brought this upon yourself. It's like when Madison Cawthorn... Remember Madison Cawthorn?
Yeah,
the
who did
Republican
the same thing pretty
young
much.
Guy, he was in a wheelchair, and he was talking about how, oh yeah, I was invited to these sex parties all over Washington, and leadership is super corrupt or whatever. And then the establishment struck back. And what happened? They released all of this dirt on him, and his ass is gone. Okay? Matt Gaetz might face a similar fate here. Because, like I said, he's a rebel. He's a rebel with a cause, but the causes are stupid. But it's causing more trouble than it's worth in the Republican caucus and actually making it so Democrats win more. So honestly, even if you're somebody who's on the right and you agree with Gaetz's goals, the way he's going about it is empirically incorrect. It's verifiably, factually wrong. It's not helping you fulfill your goals. It's hurting you. Again, which is why I'm supporting Matt Gaetz. By all means, keep this up. But they look like they're going to axe him. Apparently, everybody's turning on him. He might have a little, some backing, a dozen or so who are with him. But almost everybody else is realizing the end result of his shenanigans is Democrats being helped and McCarthy having no choice but to go to the Democrats. So,
I'm not sure if he would probably need to get a lot of Republicans to support, like, I'm expelling him, because a good chunk of them are going to support him, so I don't know if you're going to have enough.
I'm a victim. I'm a revolutionary, and I'm a victim.
Yep.
And I'm fighting for you, which is why they're doing this to me. I'm fighting so hard for that balanced budget amendment. Yeah, such a populist, such a crusader for regular people, which is why his preferred continuing resolution had massive cuts to Meals on Wheels, home heating assistance, formula for babies, 200,000 teachers, etc. Please, man, please. But I love it. Like I said, keep going. I'm enjoying it. Hey, y'all, do me a favor.
So, yeah, what do you got to say about that? McCarthy gone.
No surprise.
Yep. So, yeah, please keep destroying yourselves, much to our amusement, and please stop threatening to shut down the government all the damn time. It's not good.
Yeah.
It's not based. There's nothing good about it. Stop it. Just stop. 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 We've already gone through this like 3 or 4 times in 10 years. Stop it. So now, on to the next topic.
And that'll be... Matt Walsh is against voting, because of course he is.
Are you surprised? I'm not surprised. I'm surprised. Not surprised whatsoever. We've covered Matt Walsh before. Fascist piece of shit and all that. So yeah, nothing new. He doesn't think people should have the right to vote and all that. Yada, yada, yada. Let's watch Colin laugh at him.
So on a day that ends in Y, usually Matt Walsh is going after trans people because he thinks it's.
Oh yeah, I'm surprised he ain't going after trans for once.
But now he's added another thing to his list.
Find a way to bring trans people into it.
Of things to demonize, and this time it is voting rights. Okay, let's hear him out.
These people should not be allowed to vote. I mean, you hear people say that in a half-joking way. Oh, I can't believe these people can vote. But really, they shouldn't be able to. Like, actually, they should not be able to vote. That should be something that that becomes a serious topic of conversation. Okay, like the kind of thing that comes up at presidential debates. Okay, like an issue that political parties have to deal with in their platforms. We should really be talking about this. That there are a lot of people who are voting in this country who should not have that right.
Yes, they should, because you're American, so eat shit.
They don't deserve it.
Oh, they don't deserve it. Oh, so who does deserve it? People who agree with you? Oh, that's mighty convenient of you. I guess you're part of the idiot conservatives that now that, let's see, want to ban women from voting, want to make it so you have to be 25 or over to vote. Gee, I wonder why. Could it be because women, by and large, and people under 25 years old don't agree with you? Maybe you should try and go after their ideas and all that, like become progressive. That's right, I forgot. You're too much of a fascist to want to do that, so you gotta try and ban the right to vote and all that. Not surprised.
As I've tried to explain many times, the right to vote, it is not a God-given right guaranteed.
Really? It's not a God-given right, as you'd say? Usually, it would be the other way around, you'd say it. Everything's a God-given right.
Guaranteed to everybody, regardless of anything. It's not.
Yes it is. That's how it is in the Constitution, buddy. Anyone that's 18 and born in America, an American citizen, can vote, and you can cope.
Okay, it's not.
Oh my God, God's laughing his ass off.
You automatically.
Of course he is.
To have a
people
say
are easy. Remember, Matt Walsh is evil.
Mm-hmm.
He is not just like, oh, it's got this, that, other. No, he believes this stuff. He's actually evil.
One topic I thought about maybe doing in the future is covering all these idiots and wondering which one of them believes in, which one of them are just like grifting retards. Walsh was definitely in the he believes it camp.
It is not a God-given right guaranteed to everybody, regardless of anything.
Yep.
It's not. Okay, it's not fundamental to your human nature that you automatically are entitled to have a say.
The American Constitution would like to have a word with you on that one.
Exactly.
Political system in your country.
That literally is exactly what it is. So it's called a right. It's called a right. The whole idea of a right is that, like, it cannot be taken away. That's the whole idea of a right. And this is something he would understand in the context of, like, the Second Amendment.
Yep, because they would say
Right.
God-given
Government
right
has
to
no ability
own
to
arms.
restrict this in any way, shape, or form.
God-given right to
Really
vote.
far to the point where they would argue, like, you're allowed to have a machine gun or whatever.
He'll probably be like, "Oh no!" He'll probably be like one of those stupid originalist interpretation fuckers. They'll probably be like, "No, voting back. The actual way to vote is you have to be white and property owning and man. There you go. Those are people that can only vote. White, property owning men."
To agree with Matt Walsh on everything.
To the Second Amendment is, it's a right. There isn't even a debate. But now with voting rights, it's, we should restrict it. Well, if you're restricting it, that means it's no longer a right. That means you would need a permit, which comes from the word permission, which means it is a privilege. So look, okay, just say it, Matt. Just say, I don't believe in democracy. I'm anti-democracy.
Well, of course he does. Well, we know that he doesn't.
To its logical conclusion, right? I believe in autocracy, or I believe in oligarchy, or I believe in authoritarianism.
I bet he gets hard thinking of
or I believe
Putler.
in fascism.
Yep.
Say it.
And he probably gets hard about thinking about Hitler too.
Yep.
I hate how
because as I've said, Walsh isn't just a fascist. Walsh is a full-on Nazi.
Yep.
I'd say yes. I'll be confident in things saying that Walsh is a Nazi.
Yep, because he actually believes what he's saying, people. He is the is the absolute knot and grifter of the people that I suggested earlier.
They're so weasel. I tell you guys exactly what I think on every issue in specific detail, knowing sometimes when I'm as direct as I am, you might not like what I'm saying. But I do it because it's a matter of honesty. It's a matter of integrity. To tell people exactly where I am on the different issues and exactly the labels that apply, etc. He would never. I'm a fascist. Just say it. Just say it.
Just say it. Say he's a fascist.
Coward.
Say he's a Nazi.
It's not fundamental to your human nature that you automatically are entitled to have a say over the.
You are, as long as you're 18 in America. So cap.
It's not.
It is. So cap. Keep capping. Keep capping.
Not everybody should have it.
Yes, cope. Cope.
I mean, if we're going to take away the rights to vote, how about we take away the right to vote for people who don't believe in democracy like you? And plus, you and your side are very stupid, and I don't think you would know how to vote properly whatsoever because you're an idiot. So how about we take your right to vote away? Oh, that's right. You wouldn't like that if it happened to you. Exactly.
So incredibly obvious that if you are an absolute oblivious moron who knows
that's a major projection. Oh boy, because you are an absolute idiot to us.
About your own country.
What did he say? For whatever reason, I can't hear a thing.
Obvious.
On the video. I can hear you fine, but I can't hear the video again.
Obvious. That if you are an absolute oblivious moron.
That's
who knows nothing about your own country.
He's just projecting endlessly.
Walsh, that reply back to you. Mr. Don't apparently understand the Constitution. Remember, people, if you're born in America and you're resident and you are 18 or older, you automatically have the right to vote. So, cap.
Exactly. So get lost, Walsh.
Or the government that runs it.
How about
you shouldn't have any say over
fucking Russia or Saudi Arabia, Walsh?
Yeah, I mean, they're doing what you want, so how about you go there?
Really, really bad news for you, Matt. So if you want to talk about, hey, you need to have some basic knowledge in order to be able to vote. You know that...
I would exclude you, Walsh. I would exclude you, Walsh.
Smug Kyle is best Kyle.
They're not. Now look, I know what he actually wants. What he actually wants is, like, if you're conservative, you can vote. If you're a Democrat, a liberal, a leftist, you can't vote. Like, that's ideally what he wants. That's what he thinks a test would, like, show, is that conservatives are educated and liberals are stupid. It don't work like that at all, homie. Not at all.
I wouldn't be surprised if I would beat him in American history tests.
Yeah.
What is that?
I have no doubt. I have no doubt both of us would absolutely demolish him.
Oh, Walsh, how's it feel getting obliterated by someone who's not even American on American history?
Yep. What do you mean? Everyone who disagrees with me shouldn't have rights.
Yes.
Well, that's funny because I think people who disagree with me should still have rights. Wow. Really difficult to come to that conclusion and say that.
My
not all
fascism
difficult.
is showing.
But
I've
that's
been
how we do-
playing too
so
much
what would
Hoi
be your
4.
process? What would be your
Nazism
process?
is showing.
Well, maybe we should have like a test. We can call it like
I
a-
want to get
a
Lebensfrauen
poll test.
in Hoi 4.
Oh, wow. Well, let's go ahead and look at our history. Has that ever been tried before?
Matt
have we
Walsh,
ever done that before?
I am
Well,
a
that's right, we
domestic.
have.
Matt Walsh,
And
I
how
am a
was it used?
domestic terrorist.
I can't stop thinking of trans people for some reason.
Because I'm turned. Because I'm turned on by them.
Yep.
To try to disenfranchise minority voters. That was the idea.
Yeah, guys, like I said, in America's founding, only white property-owning men could vote.
Yep,
they would only
not
give it
even
to people
women.
who they thought
That had to come.
would
That had
vote.
to come. They did that. That wasn't until
1920.
1920. Yeah, I knew in. I knew in Britain it was like near the end. It was like either just before the end or just after the end of World War One. Was when a lot of those things was when women in a lot of places got the right to vote.
Or you could be stupid France and not have it till they got liberated after World War II.
Yeah.
In a left-wing direction anyway. We know the history of this. Any sort of, like, whatever process you would come up with to try to, like, rule people out and let other people in, it's impossible to come up with a process that's not colossally biased. You can't do it in a way that's fair
everyone colossally biased. That's what Walsh wants.
or objective or neutral.
Because he's evil.
There is no way to do that. Nor should we even be having this conversation, because again, if something is a right, it means it's off the table. It's non-negotiable, right?
Yeah.
And he clearly doesn't agree. So look, my main point here is very simple. Like, just own it. Say I'm an autocrat, or I'm an authoritarian,
Fascist,
or I'm
Nazi.
fascist, or I believe in oligarchy.
Where's Putler
or
so
I
I can
believe in
idolize
rule by
him?
philosopher kings.
Yep.
Right? Like, just say it.
Where's Saudi Arabia so I could
And he's not gonna say that
parade how their Sharia is exactly what I want.
Wait, Xi is killing Muslims? The Uyghurs? Oh, that sounds lovely. I think I might go there.
He is going to come out and say we should stop like stupid people from voting. Well, again, Matt, I hate to break it to you, but if that was the way we were approaching it, which we shouldn't, but if that was the way, you would be first on the chopping block. To not be allowed to vote.
Exactly.
Remember when he went on
Because
Rogan
we think
and he
you're
said something
stupid
like,
and we have more
there's like
people
a
on our
million
side.
kids who have done,
because
who have had surgery
as we know
to
that you
transition in their
worship
gender or something like that,
Satan.
and then they looked it up and it was like 4,000. Remember that. So is that like okay, you're out, son. You botched a basic fact so clearly that, like, you know, why should you have the right to vote? Why should you have the right to vote if you get
Because
things so brazenly wrong?
Me,
So insanely
that's
wrong.
what, me.
You know, you can make an argument.
I'm
hey,
the
Matt
smartest
Walsh,
person in the
his
world.
defining characteristic these
Conservatives
days
are
is what?
always correct,
He's
and you
against
libtards
the
are
freedom,
stupid.
even for adults, to transition if they want to transition. So you're against freedom. Well,
T-slur,
freedom is a core American value.
endless
Oh, look at that. You're against a core
T-slurs.
American value. Therefore, maybe we should take away your right to vote. Right? Again, I don't believe this, but if you're going to start opening the door, right? You want to talk about the slippery slope? Is the slippery slope of all time, where there is no end to it. There is no end to it. So, no, voting is a right. It should remain a right. And these guys freak out over, like, universal voter registration, which Trump was just flipping out about that because Governor Shapiro in Pennsylvania just did that.
Which is
Everybody should be
awesome.
celebrating that.
Oh,
No.
And of course, they're only against it because they're afraid that they'll get more people to vote. I mean, get more young people and minorities to vote for Democrats and all that. Even though it works for everyone, even conservative voters, it would help. It's just that it'll help
There
the
are
left
parts of
more.
the country in which conservatives would actually win. Because
what
they
they
actually vote.
want
No,
to
because
restrict
they
the
would
people who
actually
don't
be
agree with
able to
them.
vote.
And they have various ways of doing that, like voter
Not-
ID, for example. And so
But
the
of
lower
course
the
they
turnout is, the more
worship
likely it is
Satan,
Republicans win.
so
The higher the turnout it is,
Of
the
course
more
they,
likely
of course they
Democrats win.
don't want people
So
to
they
vote.
they want as few people to vote as possible so that they have a better chance. If that's what it takes for you to win, maybe you should reevaluate your own ideology.
But that's
right,
too
guys,
hard
that's
to
the
do.
show.
Remember, Kyle?
That's too hard because they're powered up by the dark side of the Force.
So yeah, what you gotta say about Baby Walsh having a meltdown that he can't get his way?
No surprise for that idiot.
Yeah. Guess what, people? Just a reminder, if you don't know, if you're born in America and you're 18, you have the right to vote. End discussion. Cope if you don't like hearing it. All right. So
Yep,
I think
exactly.
on to the next topic.
Yep, that'll be the California banning book bans. Book bans get banned. Woo!
So yeah, we've covered it way too frequently over this year about idiot conservatives trying to do book bans all across the country. Well, California actually did a base first step, and they banned book bans, which is awesome.
Yeah.
No more trying to ban LGBT content, trying to ban critical race theory, whatever the hell they make up that's critical race theory and stuff like that.
By black people, banning content created by black people and women.
Ban content that talks about American history that they don't like.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Bans on books that don't agree with the Holocaust.
Yep, which happened recently. Kyle covered a teacher recently was fired because they gave out books at their class talking about Anne Frank, who avoided the Holocaust for as long as possible and all that. So yeah, not even books that talk about how evil the Holocaust was are safe from it. Gee, I wonder why. Because maybe conservatives want to do some sort of Holocaust and don't want to be judged for it. I'll leave you up to that. So yeah, let's watch this awesome ban in practice.
So California Governor Gavin Newsom has been a very busy man lately. Now, he made a decision recently, which in my opinion was a horrible decision. I think he vetoed a bill that would have basically banned driverless trucks. No, excuse me. I'm messing that up. He is okay with driverless trucks. There was a bill to ban driverless trucks, and he said, no, we're going to allow
driverless trucks are evil.
Words,
Elon Musk
sort of
made them, therefore they're evil.
Intelligence, potentially against workers, because it's possible that driverless
and by the way,
drivers, and of course that's
I don't know how reliable this report is, but apparently Elon Musk actually had something that would have that certain ones be like, oh yeah, by the way, we are literally going to murder workers instead of just firing them. We're actually going to kill them.
Wouldn't be surprised for him.
Number one professions in the country, people make
he is evil,
a decent wage,
after all,
can pay their bills, and that would be something where I would be more on the side of we need to protect these jobs. And I don't think the technology is even really there yet for driverless.
It's going to be eventually, though, Kyle.
And I wouldn't want to see
unfortunately,
tens of thousands of people,
not at the moment, but it will be
lose their jobs
sooner or later.
And eventually in the future, it'll most likely be safer for driverless cars than it is for people to drive.
You have billionaire executive make more money and shed on the cost side by not paying workers, right?
Or actually, no. By then, I'd hopefully be
I can't say it's all that surprising.
Working a support worker, which is more mentally taxing than physically.
The public option for insulin, where they're taking on big pharma in that respect by doing California-made insulin, which of course is going to be much cheaper. He's done some good things, but he's also still the guy who refused to sign a bill giving universal health care to people in California.
Yep, which was not based.
Even though he bucks orthodoxy from time to time, I still think it's fair to call him a centrist Democrat, a neoliberal, to one extent or another. Maybe less than somebody like Kamala or Mayor Pete.
And Kamala Anus, whom, by the way, only racist and sexist support and would lose to Trump in all 50 states.
Good ones here.
Because she's literally... Because, as I said, only racists and sexists like her, and it's only about 2% of the population like her.
He made recently. We also have two, I think, good ones here. So California is going to fine schools that ban textbooks on race or LGBTQ topics. So it's basically ban on book bans involving race or LGBTQ issues. So this is in Axios here. They say California Governor Gavin Newsom signed into law on Monday a bill prohibiting schools from banning books on racial or LGBTQ
people learning because they're scum.
Any authority in the state that defies the legislation. The move against what Newsom calls textbook censorship in schools follows an unprecedented wave of book bans in Florida and across the U.S. The legislation is in direct response to efforts by conservative leadership in some California school districts to censor or remove books. Notably, one
do you guys even have any power whatsoever since California's a deep blue state?
in the Riverside.
It did say
County
districts,
city of
and there are
Temecula
certain
featuring
districts
content
where
on Slane's
far-right terrorists are still present, like they are in basically every state. They're there in every state. Even like Minnesota has a couple of them.
Yeah, that's just like I gotta deal with anti-hair ass. But hey, with this law, now you can't ban bugs.
San Francisco gay rights leader Harvey Milk. All right, let's pause here for a second. This is why I think he's right. These books that we're talking about, like, why shouldn't kids learn about the slain San Francisco gay rights leader Harvey Milk? Why should race stuff be off the table? Now, by the way, you don't even have to agree with the stuff in question. The question is, should it be banned? Should it not even be allowed in the conversation, right? And that I disagree with. I'm sure there's aspects of critical race theory that if I went through it, I would say, look, I don't agree with this part. I might agree with that part or that part, but I don't agree with this part.
Like, for example, I don't agree with black nationalists that racism is genetic. Nation of Islam literally believes that. I wouldn't censor the Nation of Islam on that.
That's authoritarian. From Temecula to Tallahassee, fringe ideologies across the country are attempting to whitewash history and ban books from schools, Newsom said in a statement after signing the legislation that took immediate effect Monday. With this new law, we're cementing California's role as the true freedom state, a place where families, not political fanatics, have the freedom to decide.
We don't have the right to ban stuff anymore. That doesn't sound freedom.
So look, he's taking the mantle of freedom, and I totally agree with that. Because again, if you're on the side of freedom, you do have to take a stand against book bans, right? Now, look at this, guys. This is at the same time we got this news. Florida school district orders librarians to purge all books with LGBTQ characters. See, now this is the thing. When you have these conversations with people on the right, what they like to do is...
They're probably so stupid, they probably don't even know who is LGBT and who isn't. Like we covered recently, like cis people are now being discriminated by transphobes, remember?
Yes. Remember the guy who told a 9-year-old girl to take her clothes off to prove she wasn't trans, and then had the audacity to call other people pedophiles, even though that's probably one of if not the most pedophilic things you could say.
Borderline cases where it's a book involving some like lewd sex act. And you're like, oh my god, what age group is able to see
everything to these guys is lewd, so why should I care what they think?
And like, on those arguments, I think most reasonable people go, yeah, when you get to a certain age, obviously you don't want lewd sex acts in the books, right? But what they do is they bring up this example and pretend like the entire conversation around book bannings is about lewd sex acts being showed to like 7-year-olds or whatever. But that's not true. In fact, we went through what's called the PEN America report. And in the PEN America report, they detail what percentage of the book bans are in different categories. And what you find out very quickly is, I believe the number was only about 20% of the book bans are about sex-related stuff. And even for those sex-related stuff bans, not all of them are like borderline cases where it's too extreme or whatever. We could be talking about a book that could be used in a health class in 7th grade, right? And they still might try to ban it. And it's like, hey, you're supposed to be learning about this in 7th grade. You're supposed to be learning about reproduction. You're supposed to be learning about the naughty parts, right?
Now,
again, they can find a handful of examples of like, maybe this goes
sexually abuse
around that. But when they pretend
and we want to sexually abuse our kids and not have them know what to say about it.
And yes, guys, that's actually a very common thing. They don't want that to be taught, so kids don't know they're being molested and all that. It's unfortunate, it's horrifying, but it's very, very, very common.
Is that is disingenuous to the max. Because again, we went through the numbers in the PEN America report. Some large percentage of the book bans are over violence-related stuff. Some large percentage is over race-related stuff. Some large percentage is over LGBTQ-related stuff. And so it's not the reality that, like, no, this is definitely egregious. This is definitely crossing a line. No, in most instances, there's no line being crossed at all, and it is clearly ideological from the right wing, where they don't want things to be taught that they don't personally like. So look,
American history
all over the
that
country,
is in full-blown black exceptionism. No, we don't want that here.
Stand on the side of freedom. I think that's a good thing.
They
I also
don't
have one
want
more thing that he
anything
did
that
to
doesn't
share
point
with you
out
guys.
that
I thought
America
this was
is
pretty interesting
basically
as well. California Governor Newsom
satanic.
signs law
Hold
raising
on.
taxes
Is
on
that
gun
America,
and
China,
ammunition
and
sales to
Russia
pay for
are
school
the
safety
three
and
worst
violence
fucking countries on the
prevention.
fucking
Again, I think
planet?
that's a great idea.
But no,
Funny
those
enough,
two are
I think
good,
he took
remember?
this from
Yep, according
I think he took it
to
from Chris
the
Rock.
true left.
And idiots on the right somehow, too, remember?
Yep.
Especially when it comes
I
to good
remember
old
that.
Nazi state Russia.
bit, where he was
Yep.
like, Chris Rock said, I don't really believe in gun
Nazi
control,
and
but I do
Islamic.
believe in bullet
Oh yeah,
control.
I just repeated myself, but I said Islamist because the Chechens are Islamic Nazis. They're literally indistinguishable. The only thing that's distinguishable distinguishes between the Wagner mercenary Nazis and the Chechen Islamist Nazis is their religion.
We can beat up minorities. Check. I mean, not minorities. LGBT. Check. Women cannot. Women cannot call the cops for domestic abuse. They're pro domestic abuse. Oh, thank you. I'll check that too. Oh, this place seems lovely. And the ultimate check. Kill Ukrainians. Oh, when do we sign up?
He was like, if each bullet cost, however, I don't remember what he said, $1,000 or something like that, well, there'd be a hell of a lot fewer shootings, right? And it's kind of in line with that. So you're going to raise taxes on guns and ammunition and use that money for school safety and violence prevention.
That
I
would
think
be
that's a good
awesome.
thing. I think that's a good thing. I mean, I think I'm in favor of the standard gun reform ideas. Universal background checks is a great one. Ban on high-capacity magazines is a great one. Having some sort of testing or permitting system, which is a little more strict and
having
rigorous,
smart
so you keep the
regulation
guns
against
out of the hands
guns?
of not only
Oh,
criminals, but people
no,
who
not
commit
my
illnesses.
Second
I think
Amendment.
that's a positive thing. But this is one I hadn't thought of. This is kind of
Freedom.
creative, and this is
Fuck
something I
the freedom to live in a society without worry about being killed.
definitely support.
Fuck,
Like
that's-
Australia.
That's positive freedom. We don't like positive freedom. We like negative
They just-
freedoms. The freedoms that fuck people
Bit of
over.
a mixed bag coming out of California these days.
The
But Gavin
freedom
Newsom's definitely been
to
a
drop a
busy man.
nuke on
And look,
the
the
Nazi
speculation is
terror
real.
state
I
of the
think Goldman's thinking about
Ukraine.
running maybe 2028.
And you're a shit
right? I
libtard
think he's
bag
probably
Satan worshipping
positioning himself for
pedophile
that.
if you
Right now, he's trying to be
disagree.
a loyal
We went to drop nukes on California, remember?
Biden foot soldier.
Yep.
Making arguments for Biden that are even better than the arguments Biden makes for Biden.
Little do they know that.
And he's trying
Little do they know that as soon as there's a nuke fired on California, California will fire nukes into Texas and Florida.
to launch himself into that national conversation. And some of these things are definitely positive. All right, guys, that's the show.
Yeah. So we gotta say about
All
that
right.
awesome based Gavin Newsom actually being good for once.
Finally, someone stood up
Banning
against
book
it.
bans. Let's go. And the right
That's
can
awesome.
eat shit and mold forever and ever.
Yep,
Fucking idiots.
exactly.
All right. So now on to the next topic.
The final topic. Well, Australia is having a referendum on the voice to Parliament for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people.
So since this involves you, what's this about?
All right, so basically, I've gone to the voice.gov.au website because I couldn't find a video on it. Anyway, so here's what we got. The Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice would be an independent and permanent advisory body. It would give advice to the Australian Parliament and government on matters that affect the lives of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. This includes issues such as education, health, housing, justice, and other policies with a practical impact on First Nations people. If the referendum passes, there will be a process with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities, the Parliament, and the broader public to settle the voice design. Legislation to establish a voice would go through parliamentary processes to ensure adequate scrutiny by elected representatives in both houses of Parliament. This would ensure the voice can evolve and adapt as circumstances change while upholding the authority of Parliament to legislate the voice.
And when's this referendum?
October 14th. Unfortunately, it's not looking good on the polls. That it looks like that we might scrape over the line. So, okay, for a referendum to pass, generally, we've had 41 of them, and only 9 have passed. And you got to get the majority of the people and the majority of the states. What it's looking like at the moment is it might be the majority of states. My home state of South Australia is still like 1% either. It's like a couple of percent either way, depending on the polls.
Like swing state, basically.
Pretty much in this one, yeah. South Australia and Tasmania, and at this point, South Australia slightly leans no, and Tasmania slightly leans yes. But at this point, we might get the states, but it's not looking good that like we're going to get the people. And put simply, that's because Victoria and New South Wales are only about 4 to 5% ahead on yes, while the no camp has a 20% blowout on Queensland and Western Australia.
And ain't that where most of the Aboriginals still are?
I mean, there's a lot in a lot of them are in the Northern Territory.
Yeah.
Or in and then they're in like a lot of outback communities across the country. I mean, they're still recovering after. They're still having problems from the genocides we inflicted on them.
Mm-hmm. Just like good old Native Americans over here and all that.
Yeah.
I'm sure they all know the pain. So.
Oh yeah.
So it sounds almost like a constitutional like referendum here. We have to get like 3/4 of Congress and like 3/4 of the states too.
Yep.
Like
as I said, got to get 4 out of the 6 states, and we got to get 50% of the population.
And of course, you're voting yes on it, of course.
Yep. I'm cautiously in favour, but we've got to do something different. The last century has not not worked for most of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people.
How come
it's worked in what?
How come you're cautiously favor?
It's more that it's partly that how much is it actually going to change? I'm not sure about, but don't think it's going to do all that much.
Because fuck the Aboriginals, don't you know? Just like fuck Native Americans.
Oh, the fucking campaign's been so toxic. Our opposition leader, Lord Voldemort Peter Dutton, he's a fascist. Straight up, he is. Things he has said
with a name like that
indicates that he has contempt for democracy. I mean, I'm going to say it now. I'm going to show you what he actually looks like.
Sounds like someone who would fit right into Trump's Republican Party, you mean to say?
This is what he looks like. He looks like fucking Voldemort with a nose.
Gee, no wonder.
He looks like
No, with a name like that and with that evil look, no wonder he hates the Aboriginals.
Yeah.
and let me guess,
he pretends that if he somehow gets back into power, he'll hold a referendum to recognize Aboriginal people in the Constitution. No, he's going to sabotage that every chance he gets.
And I guess and I guess the no camps being all racist too, as always.
Oh, well, at least the ones on the Duttons. Well, actually, birds on both sides have been, because fucking...
Really?
Oh, God, Lydia fucking Thorpe. God, she's a fucking Karen. Oh, she is! She's a Karen! She is! Okay, straight up, first off, she's a black separatist. And she was in the Greens Party, but she left because they didn't hate white people. So yes, she wants the treaty first. Though she probably wants the treaty that explicitly discriminates against white people, because that's the type of person she is.
Sounds like she fit right in with idiots on the left here.
Oh yeah, she absolutely would. She would fit in. She would fit in very well with the other black separatists and their useful idiots on the left. But yeah, which means that, and so it's like, yeah, oh god, it's been a shit show, and all the lies we've had about it.
Aboriginals are gonna rape white women if we do this.
or it would be like, oh, you're gonna be forced to pay taxes on your private property to Aboriginal.
Hey, Native Americans hear that excuse all the time. Must be new to the party. Oh my god.
Yep.
So yeah, we gotta see about this.
Because also remember that the reason why it needs to be in the Constitution is not just through legislation, is because this was attempted through legislation twice, and it was quickly repealed both times. Once by the Libs, once by Labour.
Of course, the Labour, you're supposed to be progressive, but you're showing you're not, just like the UK Labour.
Yep.
And the Democrats here. So yeah, absolutely must be done. And so, do you think it'll pass?
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. It'll be, it really is going to be that we need the yes vote to overperform in Victoria and New South Wales, like to the point of about 8-9% each. And we need the no camp to underperform in Queensland and Western Australia, and we need South Australia to get over the line to yes.
So
it's
narrow.
As I've said, it's unlikely but not impossible, and it's going to be very, very difficult.
So you're not as confident?
Not really. It's going to be hard. It's, as I said, it's...
1 week
if I had to give a percentage, I'd only give it about a 20% chance. Because that's the thing. The amount of misinformation and disinformation that's gotten out, the Yes campaign took too long to counter it.
Well, that's the left for you, as always, remember?
Yep.
Because they don't honestly probably...
if I was part of it, I know what I'd do for a little bit of fear-mongering about the no vote. A no vote for the voice to Parliament will result in lower wages, higher corporate profits, higher taxes,
and perhaps
higher prices,
and also the
higher inflation, higher interest rates, and ultimately a deeper recession.
And also
vote yes for the voice to Parliament.
And also the ultimate prize that the no want. They want to kill off the Aboriginals.
Oh, they're not. Well, okay. The ones in the Libs aren't quite that bad. That's more your white nation types that think, oh, Aboriginal people are stinky and we don't want them in our country.
Even though they were here before you.
Yep, 60,000 years before us.
The Native Americans would like to have a word with conservatives here too about that.
Yep.
So yeah, this is something that needs to pass. Would be nice if something like this showed up in America too, and watch how conservatives mauled about it too. And since you're a day ahead, that means 1 week away. Maybe that could be next episode's topic on the results of it, how it goes.
Yep.
And then if it fails, you can rage at the conservative retards and all that, and we can laugh along at their idiot ass. And when was the last time something like this happened? So you said pass.
Let me look up. Successful referendum is...
Since you said it was tried twice before and failed, I wonder how long it was since the last one.
Most recent, well, there's been 44 referendums and only 8 have passed. The most recent one was in 1977. Oh, referendums! Okay, so it's multiple.
And of course, I know about when you all failed to become a republic in 1999, which makes me very salty. You had your chance to get away from the British monarchy. Why didn't you take it?
Yep.
Is your country that much of a cuck to stay under the British crown? Like, come on, break away like we did. At least you can do it peacefully.
I think the problem with I think the issue there is that a lot of people are seeing with a lot of people are seeing the constant government shutdowns in America and are like, yeah, we don't really want to have to deal with that.
Yeah, it's not like the British probably deal with something like that too. I mean, you've seen how incompetent the British government has been the last few decades. For crying loud. Oh my gosh. So yeah, hopefully it passes, and I guess we'll talk about the aftermath in the next episode. And hopefully it passes, and I'm sure if it passes too, the conservatives will have a Malden meltdown and have
I'd love that.
And they probably would go all racist. They'll probably go all racist Aboriginal terror, protect the white women at all costs.
Oh, absolutely. Or they'll be like, Aboriginal people now have more rights. We're now 2 different countries. As if we haven't been 2 different countries for the past 300 fucking years.
Hey, how do you think Native Americans feel? Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe that should be something we talk about next time too about this, because that's something I don't think we have talked much about. Native American rights and all that, because they've been fucked over just as bad too as the Aboriginals.
Oh yeah.
And like no one talks about it, and it must be talked about. Well, I'll put a note to put that in future episode ideas for next time. And so you covered everything that you want to talk about this?
Yep.
Alright, and hopefully it passes. Well, guys, we know we're going to be quite busy in the next episode, so see you guys next time for episode 87.
See you guys then.